but I mean, should the person Mr. 95 learn how to squat?
Absolutely, 100%.
That's why I mentioned the top 5 exercises. So
Yes.
let's take the example of the Mr. 95.
Yes.
What should he be able to do?
Okay, Mr. 95 should learn how to definitely squat. Squat is one of them.
Zercher or regardless?
Look, Zercher is a beautiful way of squatting, but
I mean, the reason I mentioned it is because it changed my life. I learned it last year.
yes,
And it changed everything, how
likewise,
I approach it. Exactly.
100%, 100%. It changed my life too.
I just to tell the people, Zercher squat is basically where you put the actual weight here.
Yeah.
And you can do so many things with it. You can do
Yeah.
lunges with it. You can do good mornings with it. You can do a lot of stuff with it.
It changes your center of gravity. If you have shoulder mobility issues, it's also amazing for you. If you have limited ankle mobility, it's also amazing for you. No, the Zercher squat is definitely up there. But just a normal squat for our 9 to 5 person. Also, I would love them to learn how to engage their core. So any type of core exercise or core engagement, but done the right way. So there's a plank I like to do a lot with my patients. It's a plank that's been proven to solicit the most muscle contraction and being on the harder end of the plank, but a plank is very easy to teach. So the exercises that I'm going to choose are exercises that one can contribute to your day-to-day life, because squatting is the movement of standing up and sitting down, so that translates perfectly into somebody's life. And then a plank is something that is easy to teach, so then they can learn that fairly quickly, and then it's going to help them in the engagement of their core when they're sitting, assuming that they have a desk job. What else would I give them?
Take your time. Any pulling exercises, for example?
Possibly. But also the neck. I would teach them more about posture, so stuff that would work on helping them have a good posture, because what ends up happening is when you're at a desk, you kind of curve your position like this, and especially if the stress starts building up. So maybe some neck reinforcements. I'll have to get back to you on that. Maybe some pulls for the upper back. But a pull comes a push, so maybe a bench press as well.
I don't know if you've heard of Peter Attia. He's an Egyptian cop. He's famous on online regarding like health, science, exercises. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast many times, and he talks about if you're talking, one of the markers for a long, healthy life is grip strength.
Yes.
So grip strength. That's why I said pull. Like you should be able to, if not necessarily pull yourself up, but be able to hang and stay there for at least a minute or whatever time he actually set. Is that something you've noticed in your practice?
So this is a test I do with all of my patients. If not, when I shake their hand, I would, in the process of the rehab process, but I do that when the patient is a bit older. It's not necessarily a younger population I do that with. I ask them to squeeze my hand because it has been proven to be an indicator of good health and more of a long-lasting health. It's not a bad idea. But you get your grip strength from, let's say you're doing a deadlift as well, right? Or you're doing a row. That's also grip strength.
What about ISO exercises? Like, for example, we're talking about Zercher, right? Let's say you're holding a weight here and you're just walking with it. Come back and come back and go back and forth. Or you're like doing a carry. That's an ISO exercises. How do you feel about them?
So ISO is short for isometric, okay? So there's 3 different types of contractions. Okay, so let's take the bicep, for example. My bicep is long. As I contract, I shorten it. That's called the concentric contraction. My bicep is short. As I elongate and contract, as I contract, it elongates. This is an eccentric contraction. And then as I push and I don't move, this is an isometric contraction, which is usually the first step towards rehabbing an injury. So with movement comes risk of injury. So usually in my rehab process, if somebody's got, let's say, a quad injury, before asking them to do a squat, we work on isometric contraction of the quads. And there, I don't really mind how hard you push because there's no movement. So you're mitigating that risk of injury. So I love isometric exercises.
Okay, so to recap, we mentioned the squats, the planks. We said some kind of pull exercise, some kind of neck reinforcement exercise. You have one more.
Yeah, when you get a pull, you got to get a push.
Okay. So bench or just regular push-up, for example.
Regular push-ups are great. Bench, if you're benching, preferably not with the barbell, because if you have a desk job, you might have imbalances where you're using your right hand or your left hand a bit more. And with that bench, you kind of don't feel those imbalances, right? So you can push. And if you're pushing with the left more, you don't really feel it because it's a barbell. So a dumbbell press.
Do you prefer flat or incline?
Depends which part of the chest you're looking for.
No, if you're talking about long-term health, long-term shoulder health, for example.
Technique, whether it's
Regardless,
flat,
so it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
Technique,